I heard you loud and clear. In a previous video, in which I presented 8 possible culprits who could be considered the worst person in A Song of Ice and Fire, I encouraged discussion in the comments. I wanted to hear from you. I wanted you to tell me if you agreed with some of my potential picks, disagreed, or felt that there were some characters missing. And after overwhelming feedback, for which I am very grateful, you gave me your answers. By far, you named Euron Greyjoy and Tywin Lannister as the most evil people in A Song of Ice and Fire. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Exploring Fiction. As previously stated, the response to the worst person in A Song of Ice and Fire video was exactly what I was hoping for. And now that I have your responses, I wanted to take a look at the 2 characters you named almost universally a little bit more. While the following will not be a full-on analysis of Euron Greyjoy or Tywin Lannister, it will be a peek into what may qualify them to be the most evil individuals in George R.R. Martin's masterwork. So, why are Euron Greyjoy and Tywin Lannister in contention for worst person in A Song of Ice and Fire? And are they viler than the characters listed before? Let's explore. The Crow's Eye has a reputation for repugnance, a past clouded in sin, and a possible future that could dwarf all his previous evil deeds. Euron Greyjoy was the second son of the chief house of the Iron Islands, born younger than Balon Greyjoy, but older than Victarion and Aeron. The Crow's Eye was often at odds with Victarion, teasing and mocking him throughout their childhood, and quickly growing to be rivals. And even as he and his brothers grew from boys to men, Euron treated his siblings like they were his worst enemies. Though the details of his misdeeds toward Aeron Greyjoy are not confirmed, it is hinted that Euron was abusive and manipulative toward the Damphair in a way that left the youngest of his brothers traumatized for life. In the current narrative, whenever Aeron thinks of Euron, his brain blocks out his memories save for the squealing of a rusted iron hinge. Whatever the Crow's Eye did to his own brother was terrible enough to shred his subconscious even after many years of separation. What's more, Euron was no better to his more capable brother Victarion. Euron seduced and took his brother's salt wife as his own, an act that earned him banishment from the Iron Islands and forever created an unquenchable grudge in Victarion's heart. But when his elder brother Balon finally toppled down to the depths to sit in the halls of the Drowned God, Euron's banishment was rescinded, and he returned home to stake his claim for the Sea Stone chair. When we finally see Euron Greyjoy in the later entries of A Song of Ice and Fire, it is clear he is the same man, if not worse, than the one who left to sail the seas years prior. He surrounds himself with foul men, miscreants, and mercenaries from all corners of the earth. He leverages his friends and enemies like a great game of Sivas. He presents and uses gruesome treasures from far-off lands to his advantage. And yet, Euron entrances the Iron Islanders into making him their king, all but his own kin. While he sends Victarion off to treat with the Mother of Dragons, he turns a much more villainous eye on the Damphair. If the wildest rumors are to be believed, Euron Greyjoy's upcoming deeds may be his most evil of all. He has gathered into his captivity priests and holy men from countless religions, and has tied them to the masts of various ships in his fleet. Some say he is a student of the Blood Raven, and has gained eldritch knowledge beyond normal comprehension. Some say he seeks to unlock and embrace this primordial power by sacrificing these denizens of other religions in order to bring himself godlike powers with which he can enact his will. Even if this plan is exaggerated by excited and anxious minds, it is clear Euron Greyjoy has a selfish ambition that only bloodshed will satiate. The deeds of the Crow's Eyes past, present, and future all lend credence to the idea that he is evil, and certainly could be the worst person in A Song of Ice and Fire. But what makes Euron Greyjoy even more terrifying is his willingness and ability to act on his diabolical whims. But elsewhere in Westeros exists a man equally as evil, and just as proactive. Lord Tywin Lannister of Casterly Rock enacted his own will across the land during his damnable life of gravitas and conflict. Born into a Lannister family that paled in comparison to both its former self and the other great houses close to it, Tywin learned quickly the kind of man he did not want to be by studying his father. For Lord Tytos Lannister was feeble and timid, and his bannermen took advantage of their lord's weakness. Even as a boy, Tywin was disgusted by what he saw, and he soon stepped up to become the true Lord of the West, even before his father perished. As a young man, Lord Tywin took revenge on Houses Rhaen and Tarbeck for their insolence, even drowning the former in their own home. While before the Golden Lion of the Rock was known to be both shrewd and formidable, this absolute annihilation of entire houses truly demonstrated his willingness to go to any length to gain power for both himself and his family. Then, when the tides turned on the Targaryens and Robert's rebellion was reaching its pinnacle, it was again Tywin Lannister who dealt the deathly blow. Tywin led the sack of King's Landing, having only chosen a side in the war after it was clear who the victor was, and directed his troops against the king he'd served for much of his life. For this, his daughter Cersei was wed to new monarch Robert Baratheon, and once again a fragile peace settled over the Seven Kingdoms. Tywin returned home, but never failed to keep a watchful eye on his favorite children, the twins Cersei and Jaime. Even through the events of A Song of Ice and Fire, Tywin was willfully ignorant of their incestuous acts, though he has little room to boast, as he was married to his own cousin Joanna. But while he took great pride in the blonde, beautiful twins, he endured equal portions of shame and hatred toward his youngest child Tyrion. Whether he blamed the imp for the death of his wife, or simply hated that a twisted creature such as he could be the spawn of House Lannister, it was clear Tywin detested his dwarfish son. Before the current narrative, Tywin orchestrated a stunt so cruel, its eventual ramification was the end of his own life. Tywin made an example out of Tysha, the girl Tyrion loved and had married, and allowed Jaime's men to ravage her before the imp's eyes, forcing his son to watch. And in the tale presented in A Song of Ice and Fire, Tywin's disgust toward Tyrion wanes not at all. While Tywin maintains the cruel demeanor and cunning ways that all have come to expect from the Lord of Casterly Rock during the War of the Five Kings and beyond, his treatment of his youngest son ultimately earns him death. He places Tyrion as acting hand of the king in his absence, only to disregard him as a child would a broken toy upon his return to King's Landing. When Tyrion is accused of murdering his nephew Joffrey, Tywin is amongst those looking to finally rid the world of the accursed imp. The Lord of Casterly Rock wishes to see the death of his own child, simply because he is a dwarf. Tywin is so obsessed with keeping his house respectable and formidable that he cannot see the hypocrisy behind his actions. Similarly, on the fateful night when Tyrion is loosed from the Black Cells and stalks up the Red Keep to end the life of his father, he catches Shae, a common prostitute and his former lover, in Tywin's bed. For all Tywin's talk of his hatred of such women, and for all his admonishment of Tyrion's behavior, here he is caught in the act. The grim, staunch Lion of the West, who is proud of his family and even prouder of his principles, is in fact only a hypocrite, a liar, and a twisted, wicked man. Tyrion makes quick work of Shae and Tywin both, and the latter's death comes in humiliating fashion for a man so revered. Well, it is justice in a sense. Even such an end as Tywin Lannister faced may not be enough to repay for all the evil he has committed. Upon deeper examination, Euron Greyjoy and Tywin Lannister both sit amongst the greats in the realm of wickedness. Both men manipulate and despise their own families, and stop at nothing to obtain power. One does it out of pride and a love for having a feared reputation, while the other does so merely because he lusts for authority. So, has my own mind changed after studying Euron and Tywin? Slightly. While it is difficult to choose a lone figure to elevate as most evil in this particular story, I do believe Euron Greyjoy may just be the worst, along with Tywin Lannister. Though I personally still find Ramsay Bolton slightly more irredeemable. It is truly too close to call, and that is why it is so engaging to think about. Have your own thoughts changed? Or are you stauncher in your own beliefs? Let us continue the discussion below. So, that's all for this video. Leave a comment with your thoughts. I'd love to hear them. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new here. I'd love to have you. Visit my website, russellawellsauthor.com, for exclusive reviews, fiction, and more. And sign up for my mailing list for free exclusive content. The links for both are in the description below. And, like always, I will see you next time.